Is the Championship really better than the Premier League? Well, a lot of people do think so. You hear it all the time. The Championship is way more exciting than the Premier League. The atmosphere is better than the Premier League. In today's video, we're going to take a look at both leagues and come to some conclusion as to which league is the most exciting. We all know the Premier League is the global super league and is watched by millions or probably billions now around the world. But as we know, it doesn't just mean because more money is spent, there's more talent on the pitch, that necessarily the league is more exciting. Not for me anyway. Now, if you are new around here, we have done similar comparisons between the Premier League and the Bundesliga. You might have noticed I'm wearing a Borussia Mönchengladbach shirt today. This isn't going to be a German video though, don't worry, we're going to keep it local, but we have done comparisons also between the Championship and Germany's second division, the Zweite Bundesliga. They seem to do all right, you lot seem to get involved in the comments, so let's crack on. Ladies and gents, is the Championship really better than the Premier League? Let's go. We're going to look at certain things, like we're going to look at information from Transfermarkt, average goals per game, basic information, things that we can compare. The obvious ones, of course, the Championship has 24 teams in it, whereas the Premier League only has 20. There's been some debate with all the increase in games, with FIFA kind of expanding the Club World Cup. Obviously, the Champions League this season is bigger. They've changed the format of that. And there's that ongoing debate as to players' welfare from playing so many games. But I cannot see the Premier League dropping down to 18 teams like the Bundesliga. I'm already making comparisons to German football. I will stop, I promise. But we mentioned a little thing in the comparisons between the second German division and the second English division. Obviously, they've got 18 teams in their second division. And we were kind of raising the debate as to whether more teams equal more excitement, because again, you've got to remember that when there's more teams and more games, players are going to fatigue and maybe the quality on the pitch will suffer as a result. And we found out that in terms of goals per game, in the Zweite Bundesliga there was over 3 goals per game, whereas in the Championship, I may as well mention it right now, I've got my notes over here. If we look at the information from last year, the 23-24 season, there was 2.68 goals per game in the Championship last season. Sorry, I just got chatting to the postman. Yeah, the average goals per game last season in the Premier League was actually really high. They've never had an average over 3, but last season, the Premier League average goals was 3.27, so a really good season with regards to goals last year in the Premier League, which is kind of surprising because I branded last year's Premier League season as one of the most boring and predictable of all time. Obviously that ties into not being the biggest fan of Man City, but if you love your goals per game, last season the Premier League came out on top. The average attendance between both leagues is obviously going to be vastly different. And the Premier League had an average attendance last season of 38,557, whereas the Championship was 22,916, which you'd expect between the first and second leagues. I'm going to make that bloody German comparison, aren't I? But you find with the first Bundesliga and the second Bundesliga, there's not that massive jump, that massive step down, probably because there's so many big clubs in the second division. And that raises my second point. You've got the likes of Leeds, Burnley, Blackburn. I'm really scraping the barrel. There's not that many English giants in the second division in England. You've got big clubs in there like Sunderland and West Brom, and you have got big clubs, but in terms of giants, there's not that many fallen giants currently in the Championship, and I know that's going to raise some debate and annoy some people, but it is what it is. Right, so we've got the numbers out of the way, and this is something that does annoy me with modern football. Everyone throws the numbers at you, XG and all those sort of things, whereas for me, football is far beyond the numbers. I'm going to state some things that I think are better in each league. Obviously, we said the quality of the football is better in the Premier League. That's a given. It's the first division. It is a global super league, as I said, watched overseas and so on. In terms of competitiveness, we've got the so-called Big Six. Is it that competitive? It's quite predictable as to who will finish in the top half of the table year upon year, who will occupy those European spots. But again, last season we saw Aston Villa get in the Champions League. Former winners of the European Cup in 1982, Villa are definitely a giant of English football, but it was rather unexpected. You don't get that very often in the Premier League though. Now, you could throw the Championship kind of having the same teams now because of parachute payments and so on, coming down and going straight back up again, occupying those playoff positions. Look at the moment. It looks like Burnley are going to be fighting for promotion, but then again, Leeds are struggling, Luton haven't done so well either, Sheffield United. Maybe I am rambling, but I'm trying to make comparisons. Obviously, the fan atmosphere tends, is that a myth? The fan atmosphere is better in the Championship? Because I do find when people compare the Championship with the Premier League, they often compare the Championship with the Big Six, with the more touristy clubs. I'm going to big up some Premier League clubs. Nottingham Forest, fantastic atmosphere. On Tuesday, even though it's in the Carabao Cup, we'll be at Selhurst Park, one of only few English clubs with ultras now. I'm really intrigued as to the atmosphere at Selhurst Park, but it's supposed to be really good. Villa, I think Villa Park atmosphere is normally quite good. I do feel like, you know, when you've got more of a crowd, the noise tends to almost feel, it's a different feeling, isn't it? Whereas when you're in a smaller crowd, you can kind of hear each and every chant. I don't fully get on board with the atmosphere is universally better in the Championship than it is in the Premier League. By the way, it is incredibly windy, bit of a cold chill, but I've decided to make a lot of my videos out and about now. I hope that's okay with you. I don't know if you prefer the videos at Football Paradise HQ, but I keep mentioning that I'm really unfit, so I'm doubling up filming videos with going for a walk and getting a bit of exercise. But back to it. Now, let's look again towards the top of each division. Now, if apart from the outright winner, which has been obviously predictable, 6 out of 7 with Manchester City, you look, maybe the competitiveness is to do with the Champions League spots, the Europa League and the Conference League and the Premier League. And again, in the Championship, that's that playoff promotion scrap, which is incredibly good. Let's do one more comparison with the German league. The Germans aren't a fan of their playoff promotion. They're third from top will play the third from bottom in the league above, whereas in England, obviously third, fourth, fifth and sixth in the Championship will face off in the playoffs. Third will face sixth and fourth will place fifth. I think that's how it works now. They do like to change things up. But that's exciting. We love the Championship promotion, little scrap, and the playoff final at Wembley is often regarded as the most lucrative game in world football, definitely English football. So you've got the excitement of the playoffs, and of course the Premier League can't replicate that because they are the top division. Do you think the excitement of qualifying for Europe is anywhere near the excitement of fighting for promotion? I think that's one for Villa fans to answer. And as a reminder, we're going to be at Villa Park on Saturday for the game versus Arsenal. Villa fans, you know, a few years back, you were recently in the Championship. How does last season compare? You getting into the Champions League, that excitement of getting into the Champions League, how does that compare with your days in the Championship when you were fighting for promotion? Oh, how does that compare to the days when you were in the Championship and fighting for promotion? Let us know in the comments below. Now we need to make the obvious comparison as well, and that's the price of tickets. Now we all know the price to watch football in England, not just in the Premier League, is incredibly high at the moment. Naturally, it's going to be more expensive to watch a Premier League game than it is a Championship game, but tickets are getting quite ridiculous. Now, I'm going to be at West Ham in a week or so's time, and it cost me 85 quid just for an upper tier ticket at the London Stadium, which I don't begrudge paying, or maybe I do a bit because I've mentioned it. And even in the Championship, you're often paying upwards of £50 sometimes for a ticket, which is crazy. So if we're going to compare prices, of course, the Championship is cheaper. So people might think, well, it's better because it's cheaper. But then again, put it into perspective, it is the second division, not the first division. So I don't think you can really debate the ticket prices. I think they're universally across the board in England way too bloody expensive. Now, it does matter for me where you watch your football. If you are more of an armchair supporter, you don't tend to go to live games, you watch everything on Sky Sports and so on. The comparisons, I made again the comparisons between Premier League and Bundesliga, and I said, if you're that kind of fan, again, nothing wrong with that, you're going to prefer the Premier League because generally speaking, the quality on the pitch is great and the fan atmosphere isn't quite as important. You've got the commentators talking over the top. They're increasing the excitement through their commentary. Whereas if you're a live fan, if you love watching live football, which I'll be honest, I think more people should get to live games, I think you will find that, again, do you know what? I come into this video thinking that I was just going to big up Championship atmosphere and disregard the Premier League atmosphere. But again, I'm just having flashbacks to some experiences last season. And I don't think there was that massive difference. I think when you are there live, the Premier League can, especially with the big six clubs, you're going to get tourists, you're going to get people like us who turn up vlogging, making a match day vlog. They are going to have a knock-on effect to the atmosphere. And again, I don't want to sound hypocritical because we fall into that category. Going to games featuring teams we don't support, it's going to affect the atmosphere. But that said, there's a lot of match day vloggers, a lot of tourists now that watch Championship football. So I'm trying to find a noteworthy conclusion to this video. I really hope to find a winner and find out which league kind of edges it. But I think it is different strokes for different folks. Again, it's what do you enjoy? What do you want from football? Do you want that quality on the pitch and you're not bothered about fan atmosphere and going to live games? You're going to prefer the Premier League. But if you prefer the excitement of, say you support a team like, I don't know, Sheffield United, if you go week in, week out to Premier League games, you watch your side get battered 8-0 at home against Newcastle, or you're watching them in the Championship and you're fighting for promotion, naturally I think the Championship is going to be far more exciting. A lot of Leeds fans I know prefer being in the Championship because again, they're not looking over their shoulder at those relegation spots. So it really does depend on the team you support and what you like and what you dislike from football in general. With that said, guys, I want to hear your thoughts. Get involved in the comments below. I'm not sure if I'm going to upload tomorrow, but as I said, we will be at Villa Park this Saturday, and I'll see you in that video.